So, what do you do as a writer when the world itself starts influencing the story that you are creating? Hi, I'm Uriah Rowland. I am an urban fantasy author as well as an avid learner and reader, and I am currently facing this exact problem. Now, my work in progress is tentatively titled The Spark of Chaos or The Chaos Spark, whichever one I decide, and it involves these two gods who were marooned on Earth after the civil war that the gods fought to decide whether or not humanity should have free will. They fought on opposite sides of the civil war, and there is a lot of baggage there between them, but they've both been stuck on this planet for like 5,000 years. They very much have a frenemy type situation going at this point. They are comfortable with each other. But when humanity produces a spark for the very first time, as a side effect of them being given free will, they have been charged to go find this spark and protect it. Now, in the mythology that I am creating in my head, a spark would have come from the cradle of humanity. Wherever part of the world humanity originated from, this spark would also originate. Also, this spark would be a woman because creation always sits with females. So, this is my headcanon. So, where did humanity originate? Humanity originated in East Africa. That has been proven by the Human Genome Project and a bunch of other stuff, regardless of what your religious views are on this. We all came out of Africa. So, what's going on in Eastern Africa right now? A lot of really bad shit. Like, when I started looking into these cultures and everything, knowing that this little girl would be born acting different, physically being different, how I imagine her looking and being is just something that is going to create all kinds of problems if she's born in this area. So, what do I do? Do I change the whole story and just be like, you know what? She doesn't need to be born there. It would be much easier if she was born in Brooklyn. But that's not authentic to the story, which is why I now have like 6 books on my TBR in my library that I'm going through them, like An African History of Africa and, Half the Sky, which I've already read about, the trafficking issues and, the oppressive issues. And I have like 5 other books about, what's going on in this region of Africa to really understand the culture and understand the issues that would be faced by this little girl who is born into this environment. So instead of changing my story to avoid a real world conflict, I am warping my story around that real world conflict, and I'm doing the research that I need to do to adequately depict what is happening in these areas. And it's allowing me to draw attention to some of these little known world issues, like the child abandonment issues around children born with albinoism in Tanzania, and the superstitions around women and the infant mortality rate and the problems with young girls being forced into the slave labor and all of this stuff that is happening in Africa, in South Sudan, and in Ethiopia, in Tanzania, and all of these places. It's allowing me to really show that in my story. And I think that to change the whole story to avoid a conflict is just not an authentic way for me as a writer to go about it, which is why I am now reading all of these books. So, what about you as an author? Would you change your story to avoid it, or would you go full in and be like, okay, if this is what's happening, I'm going to depict it? How would you go about that? And as a reader, do you appreciate when authors do that? Or do you honestly not notice and not care?